Welcome to the Pro Voice Guy podcast. My name is Will Rice, and I'm passionate about helping people share their voice through podcasting. We've been talking a lot lately about what to look for when choosing a place for your podcast to live, and today I'm going to cover 5 great options for podcast hosting. Pro Voice Guy Podcast, the podcast about podcasts, plus a few extras about audio, social media, marketing, tech, and other stuff. Coming to you live from the Pro Voice Guy studios in San Antonio, Texas, where it's actually raining here today. Rain and thunderstorms can be a tricky part of recording your podcast or any other voice-over work. My studio is sound protected enough that the rain isn't a problem, but thunder, man, I tell you, even working in big commercial studios, when the thunder comes, there's not a whole lot you can do. I've spent the last couple of months getting to know as many podcast hosting sites as I could. It really took some time to get a feel for what sets them apart from each other. There are so many different hosts, so many different pricing models, feature sets, and plans that it becomes really complicated to sort through it. And most people just don't want to invest that much time. They just want to find a good place for it to live and get to podcasting. So now I'm going to share what I have learned along the way. This sharing part has been a process of its own. I thought I could just announce my top pick or make a top 5 list or rate them by categories, but it's more complicated than that. Choosing the right hosting site for your podcast is going to come down to 2 main variables. Ready? Price and features. Let's talk for a moment about price. Most podcasters I talk to start out with a budget of about, $0. Any money that they might have set aside for the project usually goes towards buying a decent microphone. And maybe they need a more complex setup, especially multiple microphones for multiple hosts, and that can just end up costing a lot more than planned. So the price might end up becoming the most critical determining factor. Back in July, I talked about some hosts that offer free plans, but even if you have set aside a decent budget, there is no need to spend more than you need for features that you aren't going to use. I've been sharing about features in my last several podcasts. We have covered space issues like bandwidth, upload, and storage limits. I also spent an entire episode talking about analytics and the different depth of statistics offered by different hosts. And finally, I reviewed the various options for monetization or ways to make money with your podcast. Now, it's time to sort through some of the most popular hosting sites to see how they compare through the lens of price and features. These are not in any rating order. This list is just designed to let you see at a glance the pricing and features of some of the options. And there's a lot of details here, so don't worry. You don't have to jot them all down, especially if you're driving. You can just go to the website at provoiceguy.net/blog, and everything you need is right there. Now, let me say something else. This is not an exhaustive list. There are a number of other hosts out there, and I imagine some of them are really good. I hope to share enough information here that you could also, if you wanted to, dig into some others and have just enough context to see how they stack up as well. Here is how I got it down to 5. Reading and listening. The 5 that I selected to review are consistently in the top 10 in sheer numbers. On the blog, there's a link to an article that shares all the research into those numbers. Also, talking to my clients and other colleagues, I've learned a lot about user preferences and the popularity of the different platforms. I've also spent a lot of time reviewing the websites of these providers. I have various levels of accounts on some of them. When I could, I went through the process of signing up and publishing at least one podcast. There were 2 providers that almost made the list, and I will talk about them at the very end. As I review each one, I will be referring to features that I've covered on the podcast. However, if you want a review, or if this is the first episode you are listening to, sorry, you're coming late to the party. Each of the features is covered on my blog at provoiceguy.net/blog. If you can't write that down right now, you can just Google Pro Voice Guy. Here's what I'm going to cover for each one. The prices usually for them, monthly upload limits, storage limits, bandwidth limits, analytics features, monetization options, and syndication help. If you've been listening along, you should be somewhat familiar with all those things. And so here we go with the 5 that I'm talking about today in no particular order. Anchor at www.anchor.fm. Full disclosure, this podcast lives on Anchor. However, they don't pay me to talk about them. In fact, they don't even give me a discount because they can't, because the service is already free. I tried 2 other podcast hosts before I ended up with Anchor. I didn't start with Anchor because the free thing made me actually nervous. But my jitters are going away now that they seem to have found a way to make money with their monetization program. And now that I have 7 episodes under my belt, things seem to be going pretty well. In terms of upload limits, storage limits, and bandwidth limits, there aren't any. Anchor has a robust set of analytics features in case you want to know who's listening. They include total plays, all-time plays, plays per episode, overall podcast plays per day, per week, per month, episode downloads per day, per week, per month, how people listen on the website, iTunes, Google Play, etc. All that stuff, more than most podcasters will ever need to know. These features are way more than enough for your average podcaster and will likely be just fine for more advanced users. Monetization options. If you listen to the episode on monetization or read about it on the blog, you've heard me say that you can monetize a podcast on just about any platform. Some just make it easier. Now, Anchor lacks any ability at this point to automate pre-roll or mid-roll ads, and they don't currently have their own advertiser network as some other hosts do. However, they do have a built-in listener support option. So if you're looking to have your listeners help support your podcast monetarily, you are in luck because it's baked right into Anchor. Syndication help. Anchor does all the heavy lifting for syndication. I love the quote on their website. Unfamiliar with RSS? Cool. Let's keep it that way. Now, if you don't know what RSS is, you might really like Anchor because they really do take care of this. Once you launch your podcast or even move your podcast from someplace over to Anchor, they will work to get it syndicated on every possible platform. Since moving my podcast to Anchor, it has been listed on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Stitcher, and iTunes. And that's just since the last time I checked. I just publish each episode once, and it magically finds its way everywhere. So Anchor's a great choice if you just don't want to worry about that. They're not the only one that does that, though. And as I said, I'm not going to rank these providers because they're all different. But if you're trying to start a podcast and your budget is $0 and you need something that is easy, Anchor is a really good choice. They also have some unique features like the ability to create and edit your podcast right from your computer, tablet, or phone. So you could technically get away without any other software. You can also connect with a co-host to record a show together from anywhere in the world just by using the app. And this is cool. You can have listeners call in and leave messages for you to insert into your podcast if you want to have listener calls. Some very, very cool features that continue to expand on Anchor. Next, Buzzsprout at www.buzzsprout.com. Buzzsprout has 4 pricing plans. They have a free one that I mentioned a few weeks ago. Then they also have $12, $18, and $24. If you go with the free plan, you have a monthly upload limit of 2 hours, and this is kind of sticky. Your content is deleted after 90 days. So this is okay if your podcast kind of has a shelf life that you don't want them to stick around very long, or if you just want to get started and are willing to upgrade to a paid plan once that 90 days starts coming close. The monthly upload limit on the other plans is for the $12 plan, it's 3 hours. For the $18 plan, it's 6 hours. And the $24 plan, it's 12 hours. The storage is unlimited. It just limits how much you can upload each month. You can keep whatever you've uploaded there as long as you have a plan. The bandwidth limit, how many people can listen, how often to how many episodes, is 250 gigabytes, which honestly, for most podcasters, is going to be just plenty. They've got robust analytics features, total listeners, plays per episode, plays over time, most popular episodes, how people listen, and they do it in a really beautiful setting. It's really easy to read and easy to follow and look at. They don't have any monetization options. Now, that doesn't mean you can't monetize your podcast on there. They just don't offer any baked-in help for that. For syndication, they help you out and do most of the work for you in getting registered with Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and Alexa. They tell you exactly what you need to do and help you along the way. If I were ranking, Buzzsprout might get a prize for Best Interface. It is well designed for people who don't know anything technical about podcasting. It has a super intuitive, great looking interface. So if you're comfortable with, doing stuff online, it's not going to be a big leap into podcasting using Buzzsprout. It has one great feature that is really great for people who don't want to try and understand things like file types, compression types, bit rate. You can upload nearly any type of audio file and Buzzsprout will convert and optimize the files for best results. If you're an audiophile like me and really want over-the-top sound quality, you can add 128K stereo optimization for $6 a month. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably don't care at this point. Although it's a nice feature in the future if you decide that you want to add on a little bit more high quality, especially if you're doing something super music intensive. All right, up next is Blubrry. www.blubrry.com. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 plans, the $12 plan, the $20 plan, the $40 plan, and the $80 plan. There are no upload limits on any of these plans, but they do have a storage limit, and they go in sync with the prices: 100 megabytes, 250 megabytes, 500 megabytes, and 1,000 megabytes. Unlimited bandwidth, people can listen and download all they want. Their analytics features, they have another very robust set. Total and unique downloads, platforms, distribution, traffic sources, certified on demand. You can even upgrade as well and get even more. They have a professional analytics package available for just $5 a month. Now, here's where they get different from the ones I've mentioned so far. It's in the monetization options. They have a podcast advertising platform built in. So if you're interested in getting into this for being able to monetize your podcast, they can get you connected to the clients, and they have an interface for making it all happen. It may be one of the easier ways to get started with podcast advertising with their built-in program. Syndication, they don't offer a lot of help, but everything on there is optimized for syndication on all the major platforms. So basically, if you can follow the instructions for syndication, it's going to work real well and play well with Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and all the other ones. This one does come with a free PowerPress WordPress site. Something we'll talk about in another episode is the advantage of having a website for your podcast. Now, most of these have sort of a place for your podcast to live. For instance, you can always find mine directly on Anchor by going to anchor.fm/ProVoiceGuy. But this gives you a little bit more functionality, a little bit more flexibility for it's a free WordPress site, the PowerPress, that you get as part of the package with Blubrry. Up next, it's Podbean. Okay, www.podbean.com. Their pricing is going to sound a little bit more confusing up front, but just hear me out. You can pay monthly, or you can pay on a yearly basis, which saves you quite a bit of money. So here's their pricing. They have $5, $14, $39, or $129. But if you pay a whole year at a time, that comes down to $3, $9, $29, and $99. Their monthly upload limit is 100 megabytes through unlimited, depending on which plan that you choose. Now, remember, if you're trying to figure out, well, how many episodes can I upload per megabyte? Again, check out the blog at provoiceguy.net, and I've got the formula there for you to figure that out. They have no storage limit. Once you upload it, you can leave it there as long as you want. Their bandwidth limits vary with their plans from 100 megabytes per month to unlimited. Again, you can go to the blog if you want to figure out how much bandwidth you think you're going to need. As far as analytics, they offer pretty basic stats for their $5 plan, but all the other plans include advanced stats, trends, geolocation, platform, all the good stuff. Monetization options. Podbean is another front runner here in terms of monetization. They have the Podbean Podcasting Advertising Marketplace, another baked-in advertising network that makes it super easy to connect with advertisers and get their stuff onto your podcast. Plus, a crowdfunding option, more like what Anchor does if you want to ask maybe your listeners to help support your podcast directly. You can also do that on Podbean. As far as syndication, they offer support for iTunes and Google Podcasts. They'll give you some guidance and help along the way. So a couple of notes. This also comes with a custom website similar to Blueberry. Here's what does set this apart. It's something I don't talk about very much. The Unlimited Plus and Business plans support video podcasting. That's a thing. Yeah, it's sometimes people call it vlogging, and sometimes those who come out of the podcasting world call it video podcasting, and sometimes it's as simple as a regular podcast where there happens to be a camera in the studio, or sometimes a lot more work goes into producing that as a video thing. So that is available. Also, Podbean allows you to support multiple podcasts. So if you're thinking that maybe you're going to be starting 3 podcasts at the same time, or your organization might be wanting to start a few podcasts, have a mini network, you might want to check out their Unlimited Plus and Business plans. All right, last one, not least, remember, no ranking order, Libsyn at www.libsyn.com. They've got a bunch of plans, $5, $15, $20, $40, and $75, with monthly upload limits starting at 50 megabytes going all the way up to 1,500 megabytes. No storage limits, just limited on what you can upload per month, and the bandwidth is unlimited. So the analytics features, for the $5 plan, you just get basic stats, but you can add advanced for $2 per month. The other plans include their advanced stats with total downloads, unique downloads, social stats, date ranges per episode, geolocation, platform, all sorts of stuff, everything you need to know about who's listening. Monetization options. The one thing that makes Libsyn a little confusing is they have their regular platform and then they have their Libsyn Pro platform. So in addition to the packages I mentioned, they've got a whole nother set on the Libsyn Pro platform. If you do go up to that platform, they do have monetization options. You can check that out at www.libsyn.com/Libsyn-Pro. As far as syndication, they have a feature called On Publish, multiple destination publishing. Check it out. You can see how that will make your publishing and syndication super easy. Okay, 2 that I didn't cover that maybe I should have, maybe right on the bubble, or if I had done 7 instead of 5 that maybe I would have checked out, that I invite you to check out if you want to see some more options, are Spreaker and SoundCloud. I'm not going to go into them, but you can Google them and check them out, and you've got everything you need to know to look at their features based on all the feature sets and everything else that we've been covering for the past several weeks. As I said, this is not an exhaustive list of providers. My only hope is this will help you make an informed decision when choosing a podcast host. If I missed anything on any of the providers, or you have a favorite that you would like me to look at, please let me know. You can drop me a line anytime at provoiceguy@gmail.com. So this is the end of this series on podcasting hosts. We've spent many a week looking at all the different features and options out there. And so next time, we'll be moving on, and we're going to be talking about promoting your podcast. I think most of us, if we create a podcast, we hope someone will listen. Well, how do we find those listeners, and how do we reach out to them, and how do we get them listening? Pro Voice Guy Podcast is produced by me, Will Rice, in my studio here in San Antonio, Texas. The show is produced on a Mac using Adobe Audition software. You can always read more about the things I discuss on the episode on my website at provoiceguy.net/blog. If you're in the market for a podcast intro or outro, a voiceover for your YouTube video, a commercial explainer video, been doing a lot of those lately, corporate video, or just about anything else, you can check out my website at provoiceguy.net, or you can also find me on Upwork or Fiverr. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, or listen right on the website at provoiceguy.net. If you love the podcast, tell somebody about it and ask them to hand you their phone so you can just go ahead and find it for them right on the app, and they can be ready to listen to it next time they plug in their headphones. All right, thanks. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ProVoiceGuy.